Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening and welcome to the Sultanate of Oman television news for 7 o'clock. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, the Supreme Commander, receives a cable of greetings from His Excellency Inspector General of Police and Customs on the occasion of Police Day, the 5th of January. The levelling works for the second stage of the road project from the Wilaya of Ibra to the Wilaya of Sur commenced. And the Israeli Prime Minister decides to withhold critical tax revenue and seek ways to bring war crimes prosecutions against Palestinian leaders. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, Supreme Commander, has received a cable of greetings from His Excellency Lieutenant General Hassan bin Mohsen Al-Shuraiqi, Inspector General of Police and Customs, on the occasion of Police Day, the 5th of January, and the cable on the occasion of Royal Oman Police celebration of its annual day. He said that he, along with police affiliates, are honored to forward to His Majesty greetings and best wishes, coupled with praying to Allah Almighty to endow His Majesty with good health and happiness, and Oman and its people with continuous progress and prosperity. He added that the 5th of January is a day of pride for the affiliates, and they stand in a review and assessment for their previous efforts, as well as preparation for the giving requirements for the upcoming stage. It is an occasion during which they remember abundant givings and follow up made by His Majesty and support besides capabilities to carry out their tasks performance with high efficiency and professionalism, enlightened by His Majesty's approach continuously. The Inspector General said Royal Oman Police, as they celebrate the glorious occasion, they renew allegiance and loyalty to His Majesty and pledged to proceed with determination to preserve security of this dear country and voice thanks for Allah the Almighty for abundant givings and request to the Almighty to assist them for serving the country and the dear citizens. His Excellency the Inspector General of Police and Customs concluded by praying to the Almighty Allah to endow His Majesty with good health and happiness, and every year His Majesty and the all with welfare. Blessed by the keenness of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, the Supreme Commander, the Royal Oman Police ROP celebrated its annual day, which falls on the 5th of January every year. This celebration came to stress on meanings of loyalty and pride of the dear homeland and devotion in performing their sacred national duties. The Royal Oman Police witnessed a number of achievements in various fields, namely education, police sciences, in addition to training programs and modern technologies as to facilitate their tasks and duties. Through the past years, the Royal Oman Police exerted efforts to maintain peace and stability across the country. It also played a great role in combating crimes, protecting the society, as well as reducing road accidents through various awareness campaigns in order to motivate the community in preserving peace across the country. The ROP, with the wise leadership of His Majesty the Sultan, looks forward to further ambitions and future visions to keep the country safe and qualify the Omani youth to contribute in protecting and building the country. Welcome back. With a length of 18 kilometers, part of the first stage of Bid-Bid-Sur dual carriage road from Al-Yahmadi village to Masroom in the wilaya of Ibra opened today. The opened part of the road includes 3 flyovers and 2 underpass to facilitate traffic movement in both sides. It was also supplied by safety barriers and 73 culverts at Wadi's crossings. The road passes through a number of villages of Al-Yahmadi, Al-Thabiti and Wadi Naam, with intersection ending at Masroon village in front of the referral hospital. The 3-lane road has shoulders at both sides. In a statement for the Sultanate of Oman Radio and Television, His Excellency Engineer Salim bin Mohammed Al-Nuaimi, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Transport and Communications for Transport, clarified that the first part of the first stage for Bid-Bid-Sur dual carriage way will be opened for traffic in the middle of the year. His Excellency stressed the beginning of the levelling works for the second stage of the project from the wilaya of Ibra to the wilaya of Sur. The Sultanate, by the end of November, recorded a surplus in state's general budget worth 233.5 million Omani Riyals, benefiting from stability of oil prices during that period at the level of $100 per barrel, overcoming budget expectations that it will register a deficit by the end of the year, amounted to 1.8 billion Omani Riyals. Statistics issued by National Center for Statistics and Information mentioned that the government revenues during the period from January to November 2014 were 12.5 billion Omani Riyals, as general expenditure amounted to 12.2 billion Omani Riyals. Government revenues registered a decline by 2.5% from the level of the same period in 2013, affected by oil price decline, but non-oil revenues increased by 5%, and that contributed in bridging part of decline of oil revenues. Customs tax revenues and income taxes revenues on companies and other revenues increased variably and amounted to 1.8 billion Omani Riyals, forming 14% of the total government revenues. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman Television, and still to come in our news bulletin. Citrus caviar inspires the chefs and food lovers in France. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Israel has decided to withhold critical tax revenue from the Palestinians and is seeking ways to bring war crimes prosecutions in the United States and elsewhere against President Mahmoud Abbas and other senior figures. Palestinian senior negotiator Saib Ariqat described Israel's decision as an act of piracy. The moves are in retaliation for moves by the Palestinians to join the International Criminal Court (ICC) in The Hague, with the aim of prosecuting Israelis for what they consider war crimes committed on their territory. In a first punitive response to Abbas' approach to the ICC, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided in consultation with senior ministers on Thursday to withhold a monthly transfer of tax revenues totaling some $125 million. North Korea was hit with more sanctions designed to impede access to the U.S. financial system in the wake of a cyber attack on Sony Pictures Entertainment. The U.S. government named 3 entities, including North Korea's military intelligence agency, and sanctions 10 people with links to weapons sales and proliferation. Pyongyang has denied involvement in the cyber attack. Washington said there was no evidence that any of the 3 entities or the individuals were linked to it. Treasury Secretary Jacob J. Liu said in a statement that Washington had a commitment to hold North Korea accountable for its destructive and destabilizing conduct. Obama signed an executive order imposing the new sanctions which deny designated persons access to the U.S. financial system. Nicolae Ceausescu is far from forgotten in Romania, with the youth keeping the memory of life during his regime alive within its depth classes, films and concerts. Here is a report.
Film director Teddy Nicula was born a few months before the Romanian communist regime of Nicolae Ceausescu fell in December 1989. Those events have marked his life. 25 years on and overcoming disability, he's made a documentary evoking Romania's memories of communism.
What's inspirational about the film is the fact that young people are willing and able to carry out research on their own. It creates an opening. We need to move on from this idea that young people are not interested in anything and are apathetic.
50 teenagers contributed to the film by seeking out and filming symbols of the era on their mobile phones. In a country where persistent poverty remains widespread, and nostalgia for the communist past is strong, preserving memories of life under the regime is vital. On top of regular history classes, some 10,000 high school students opt to learn in greater depth about the history of communism in Romania.
If young people learn the correct information about the communist regime and ideology, about democracy and the essence of freedom as the basis of a peaceful and happy life, they will be immunized against any propaganda which could drag them away from the democratic path.
Every year, Romania's Institute for the Investigation of Communist Crimes runs summer schools, which include a visit to Râmnicu Sărat, one of the regime's most brutal prisons.
The experience I had at Râmnicu Sărat really affected me, and I feel the need to share what I learned with others. You have to know your own past, and I encourage everyone to imagine themselves in the place of those who were imprisoned there.
The former commander of the jail, Alexandru Visinescu, faces charges of crimes against humanity after his trial opened earlier this year, the first of its kind in Eastern Europe. Romania's national radio station recently organised a concert where children performed songs from the era. The aim was to teach today's youth about their parents' upbringing under communism and to soothe some of the wounds of the past.
They roll and burst in the mouth, exploding with lemon flavors juice. Citrus caviar from Australia, finger limes, is increasingly popular with chefs the world over and is now being cultivated in France. More details in the following report.
It takes surgical precision to remove it, but for chef Antoine Hérard, the popping pulp of this citrus caviar is worth all the efforts.
Look at this pulp. That's what's remarkable. That's what's extraordinary.
Citrus caviar comes from a fruit called finger lime. It's native to Australia and comes in shades of red, pink, yellow and green. Antoine remembers the first time he tasted it over 8 years ago.
I was overwhelmed. It was revolutionary. I thought it was unique, with no equivalent. And that it would change me. That ended up being the case. That's to say, what I do now in the kitchen has strictly nothing to do with what I did 10 years ago.
Antoine's favourite is the yellow citrus caviar, which tastes of lemongrass. He uses it to accompany fish carpaccio or shellfish, mixing it with a little olive oil.
Instead of killing the taste by pouring lemon juice over the fish, we'll add the same flavour but delicate.
Horticulturalist Michel Bachez grows nearly 1,000 varieties of citrus fruits at his greenhouses in the Pyrenees. He introduced finger limes to France about 20 years ago, recreating the conditions of the rainforest at his farm.
This is a citrus fruit that is sensitive to the cold and which comes from the rainforest in Australia. So we chose to grow it in a slightly confined environment to create more humidity.
Michel charges an average of €100 per kilo, an unprecedented price tag for fruits. But it remains in high demand from top chefs around the world, who will pay almost anything for these mouth-watering explosions of taste.
You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and now, before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, the Supreme Commander, receives a cabal of greetings from His Excellency Inspector General of Police and Customs on the occasion of Police Day, the 5th of January. The levelling works for the second stage of the road projects from the Wilaya of Ibra to the Wilaya of Sur commenced. And the Israeli Prime Minister decides to withhold critical tax revenue and seek ways to bring war crimes prosecutions against Palestinian leaders. With that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.